So I began to realize that, not singing in Madison Square Garden anymore, smaller auditoriums, that's okay. Then we started doing some really large churches for a few years, and then medium-sized churches and littler churches. Remember, I was in a church in Kentucky, little country church. I mean, it was out in the boonies. And we're going to do it outside. When we pulled the bus up to the church, I joked. I said, should we go into the church or should we have them come out on the bus? Because they're about the same size. And we came to find out that we actually weren't going to be in the church. We'd be out by the side of the church in an open air. And there's nothing out there. It's not in the community. It's out in the hills of Kentucky. And I'm thinking, who are we going to be singing and ministering to? Well, we sat up and started singing. I mean, people came down out of the hills. I don't know where they came from. Like a couple hundred people show up, which was actually a huge crowd for that part of the world. But I remember standing there thinking, man, this is a lot different than it used to be. When thousands of people would come every night, and they'd turn away sometimes 1,000 people to our concerts. People would be lined around the block to get in our concerts. Not anymore. Coming down out of the hills of Kentucky. At the end of that concert, the pastor came up to me. He had a suit on. Probably looked like the only suit he had, and probably been wearing it a long time. Shoes were all messed up, and they hadn't been shined in years. He had one of those eyes like Marty Feldman. He had that Marty Feldman eye that I didn't know exactly where to look. When he looked at you, he's kind of looking at you, but he's sort of checking out something over there, too. Hair was kind of messed up, and he was holding the Bible. And we were tearing down our equipment. He came up to me and said, Dallas, thank you so much for coming out here. He said, I've been working on a sermon for tomorrow. It was a Saturday night. He was going to preach in the morning. He had about a dozen people that came to his little church. He said, I'm going to preach on those 3 mighty men of David, one in particular. Remember those 3 guys? I said, yeah, I remember that. Remember in the scripture where it goes through, and it talks about all the mighty men, but it says, but they didn't attain to the 3. These 3 were the mighty, mighty men. And there's one of them that stood out in the bean field all day slaying Philistines. Had his hand around his weapon, and he killed, I don't remember how many. He killed a bunch of them. They literally had to pry his hands off the weapon. And that preacher said, that's me. He held up that Bible. He said, I know I'm in a bean field out here, but he said, I'm going to swing this axe till they got to pry my fingers.
Wow. Amen.
I didn't minister to him. He ministered to me. Happened to be holding my guitar at the time, and I thought, Dallas, you just keep strumming. Just keep picking, keep singing, keep preaching. Do whatever God gives you to do. Who shows up's got nothing to do with anything.